Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Arun Singh Thakur from Punjab University, Chandigarh. Today, we are going to discuss about the module Negotiable Instruments Act 1881 from the paper Tourism and Hospitality Entrepreneurship and Legal Environment. This unit aims at providing an insight into the various type of negotiable instruments and come out of the Negotiable Instrument Acts of 1881. After studying this module, you will be able to understand the meaning of the words negotiable instrument, define negotiable instruments, comprehend the various characteristics of the negotiable instruments, describe the various types of the negotiable instruments, and enlist the various kinds of checks. Let us start. The business industry needs a law for his financial transactions, and Negotiable Instruments Act provide that law. In the business, it is not possible to make all the transactions in cash always, and thus industry requires an instrument which can be treated as cash for the payments when realized. Negotiable instruments are the documents empowered by law which can be convertible into cash and easily transferable from one person to another, maintaining the sanctity of the instrument and the individuals as well. The new business transactions in large amount without these negotiable instruments would not be possible. The primary objective of the Negotiable Instrument Act is to make the system of financial transactions legalized and at the same time protecting the either parties from fraud and non-payment. In India, the law for negotiable instrument is provided through Negotiable Instruments Act of 1881. Primarily, this act deals with bills of exchange, checks, traveler's letter of credit, and promissory notes. This act applies to the length and breadth of the country, including the foreign nationals within the boundaries of India. There are certain other instruments used as negotiable instruments like the bearer debentures, treasury bills, etc. Negotiable instruments, as per the section 13 of the Act of 1881, does not provide a definition of a negotiable instrument, but a generally accepted definition of these instruments is it is an instrument which is transferable by custom of trade, by delivery like cash, and is also capable of being sued upon by the person holding it for the time being. The property in such instrument passes to a bona fide transferee for a value. Transfer of Property Act 1882 in its section 17 speaks of instruments which are for the time being by law of custom negotiable, implying thereby that the courts of India may follow practice of the English courts in exceeding the character of Negotiable Instrument Act. Thus, in India, government promissory notes and railway receipts for goods have been held to be negotiable by use of custom of trade. Now, dear students, we'll discuss what are negotiable instruments in detail. The concept of negotiability is one of the most important features of commercial paper. A negotiable instrument is a written document signed by the maker or drawer and containing an unconditional promise to pay or order to pay a certain sum of money on delivery or at a definite time to the bearer or to the order. Exchange and purchase of goods and services are the heart and soul of every business. In the marketplace, goods and services are sold and purchased on cash as well as on credit. For all type of such purchase, there has to be a transfer of money either instantly or after some time. For making all such purchases in the entire world on cash during the time of purchase, it is not possible because it is risky to carry cash for the transactions amounting huge sums, and many a times business people want those goods and services on credit. Therefore, the business industry requires an instrument which helps them to solve this problem. Thus, negotiable instrument was introduced as one solution to all these problems. We can discuss one example to understand the meaning of negotiable instruments. Radheshyam, who is a travel agent, sold tour package to Mr. Amit for 1 lakh rupees on a credit of 1 month. To assure the payment by Amit, Radheshyam asked for a post-dated cheque from Mr. Amit amounting rupees 1 lakh. Mr. Amit issued the cheque to Radheshyam and put in the date after 1 month of purchasing the tour package. In the meantime, the business vendor of Radheshyam asked him to pay 1 lakh which was due for certain business transactions. Radheshyam handed over the cheque given to him by Amit against the payment. So, in this example, we can see that the instrument was first created by Mr. Amit, then transferred to Radheshyam for the consideration of tour package. Further, transferred to the business vendor by the Radheshyam again for the consideration. The process of transferring this instrument can go till last payment is made. Thus, we can say that negotiable instrument is a transferable document where negotiable means transferable and instrument means document. To elaborate it further, an instrument as mentioned here is a document used as a means for making some payment, and it is negotiable. That is, its ownership can be easily transferred. Thus, negotiable instruments are the documents meant for making payments, the ownership of which can be transferred from one person to another many times before the final payment is made. Now we'll discuss the definition of negotiable instrument. According to the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881, a negotiable instrument means promissory note, bill of exchange or cheque payable either to order or to bearer. Now students, let us describe the various characteristics of negotiable instruments. The first one is, it is a written instrument and includes signature, seal or both. One of the main characteristics of negotiable instrument is that it is written document which includes signature of the individual or seal or maybe both. It can be only realized when it is duly signed or stamped. Then second characteristics is considered value for consideration. The law considers that the negotiable instrument is always drawn for a consideration, thereby making it safe to be kept by a person and there is no need to clarify its possession. This does not make it taken as granted. In case of need, the law can ask for which consideration it was drawn. The person who asks and challenge for the consideration of existence is called as plaintiff, and the person who is keeping the instrument is called as defendant. If defendant proves the consideration, then the responsibility to prove the illegal possession shifts to plaintiff. A negotiable instrument is a document which is freely transferable from one person to another for a consideration either by delivery or by endorsement and can be further transferred even to the third party with the same spirit. It is easily transferable. These instruments are called as negotiable as they are freely transferable from one person to another by endorsement or sometime just by delivery. Negotiable instruments are specifically helpful when one has to transfer the property to somebody as per the law. To make a transfer deed, they have to pay a stamp duty and get it registered. In case of using negotiable instrument for such requirement, the individuals save their time and money while just issuing the instrument, which will work as the same as case of the transfer deed. For transferring of negotiable instrument also not require the notice to the issuer of the instrument. The next characteristic is absolute negotiability. Absolute negotiability means the person having the possession of negotiable instrument is in the clear and undisputable title to the instrument. However, if it is not drawn in good faith for a value consideration, if it is drawn kept in the possession by utilizing undue influence, that is considered as illegal possession and legal action can be executed on that. The next is the negotiable instrument should be in black and white. In any case, the negotiable instrument should be in black and white, that is in written form. Then further, next is unconditional order to pay. Every negotiable instrument is unconditional order to pay. The next characteristic is certainty of payment of certain amount. Negotiable instrument should involve paying certain amount of money only, nothing else. This cannot be considered as negotiable instruments for transferring of property, assets or goods. Then the other characteristic is fixed duration of payment. There is a due date and last date within which the payment has to be made. Otherwise, the instrument will be considered as expired. However, the last date cannot be fixed with the death of the person, as that is uncertain, and such type of instrument is void agreement. Then the other characteristic is payment to certain person. The payment in whose favor the instrument has been drawn is called as payee, and he certainly need to be a natural person, and an artificial person like companies, an officer of the organization, etc. The other characteristics of negotiable instrument which is important is delivery is essential. The process is not completed until the negotiable instrument is delivered to its payee. For example, father issued a check in your name, but it cannot be called as negotiable instrument until it is delivered to you by your father or otherwise. Stamping is mandatory on bill of exchange and promissory notes. For the bill of exchange and promissory notes, stamps are required according to Indian Stamp Act 1899. The value of stamp is decided on the basis of the duration of the payment, bill of exchange or the promissory note. Further, we'll describe the importance of negotiable instruments. The business in the world evolved through various stages. Nowadays, we are in the globalized stage of business. Reach to the globalized stage of business and their related operations was very complex development. In the early stages, there was a barter system with the exchange of goods for a consideration of goods. Later on, the currency introduced in different regions of the world where it came into practice as a tool for doing business transaction. With the passage of the time, the different businesses all over the world evolved with their own indigenous strategies for making purchase and sale. Finally, by the invention of the negotiable instrument, the world reaches to a stage where they successfully eradicated confusion among the businesses and also facilitated the smooth transactions. Now the students will discuss the various types of negotiable instruments. According to the Negotiable Instrument Act, there are just three types of negotiable instruments. That is, the first one is promissory notes, second is bill of exchange, and third is checks. However, many other documents are also recognized as negotiable instruments on the basis of custom and usage, like treasury bills, share warrants, etc., provided they possess the feature of negotiability, means the feature of transferability from one person to another. What is promissory note? Negotiable Instruments Act 1881 defines a promissory note as an instrument in writing, and that should not be a banknote or a currency note, containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay certain sum of money only to or the order of certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. To understand this, we can take up an example for explanation. Suppose you have taken a loan of rupees 10,000 from a friend Raju. As a guarantee to your friend Raju, you can write a document by stating that you will pay him rupees 10,000 on a particular date or when Raju demands, as the situation may be. This document in the possession of Raju, given by you, duly signed and stamped, is now becomes a negotiable instrument. Raju can use this document for making payment to some other third party by endorsing on the document that payment will be made to you by Raju on my behalf. Forward, this document can be presented to some other party and called as promissory note. Students, here is a specimen of a promissory note, that is of rupees 10,000, drawn in place Chandigarh. Date is 12th of June 2017 and the promise written is, on demand, I promise to pay Raju, who is son of Radheshyam of Chandigarh, a sum of rupees 10,000, written in words and figures both, for a consideration. And here to whom it is written, the address of Raju is there and stamped and signed by Arjun. Parties to a promissory note. There are primarily two parties involved in a promissory note. They are, first is the maker or drawer, the person who makes the note and promises to pay the amount stated therein. In the above example, Arjun is the maker. Second, the payee, the person to whom the amount is payable. In the above example, it is Raju. There may be certain more parties if the note has to be transferred further. They are, the first is endorser, the person who endorses the note in favor of another person is called as endorser. Then endorsee, the person in whose favor the note is negotiated by endorsement. Now we'll describe the various characteristics of a promissory note. The first, they must be written document and stamped as per the Indian Stamp Act. There must be undertaking by the drawer. Acknowledging is not sufficient. For example, if it is written that I have taken rupees 10,000 from Raju, cannot be considered as promissory note. There must be unconditional promise to pay. For example, if it is written, I promise to pay Raju rupees 10,000 after my marriage is not valid. Then the promise must be there to pay money only. For example, if it is written, I promise to pay Raju my old motorbike, it is also not a promissory note. Two parties must exist in promissory note, the maker and the payee. Promise to make payment can be made in some time future. That is, promise may be made to pay Raju rupees 10,000 after 2 months or after specific date. The amount to be paid in by the drawer should be the certain fixed amount. Further, we'll discuss what is Bill of Exchange. Negotiable Instruments Act 1881 defines a bill of exchange as an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker directing a certain person to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of certain person or to the bearer of instrument. Students, let us consider Ram gave a personal loan of rupees 5,000 to Shyam on the condition of return on demand with no interest. In few days, Ram is due to pay rupees 5,000 to Krishna. So, instead of paying to Krishna by Ram, Ram can write a document directing Shyam to pay rupees 5,000 to Krishna on demand. This document can be referred as Bill of Exchange. Students, here we have a specimen of a Bill of Exchange. On the top left corner we have amount, and on the right top corner we have the date and the place where it is drawn. And the statement, on demand pay Krishna or to his order the sum of rupees 5,000 for consideration, and the acceptor, it should be accepted by Samir and it should be addressed Shyam also. Who are the different parties to a bill of exchange? There are three parties involved in a bill of exchange. They are the one, drawer, the person who makes the order for making payment. Ram is the drawer in above example. The drawee, the person to whom the order is to pay, is made. The person who is debtor, and Shyam is the drawee in the above example. The payee, the person to whom the payment is to be made. In this case, it is Krishna. The drawer can also become payee by drawing the bill of exchange in his own name. Now we'll describe the various characteristics of a bill of exchange. Bill of exchange must be duly accepted by the drawee and signed by the drawer. It should be duly stamped by Indian Stamp Act. The statement must be in order and pay and not the request. There must be unconditional order to pay. The bill of exchange must make an order to pay money, nothing else. The amount must be certain and clearly written. The name of the certain parties must be there on the bill. What are cheques? Cheque is very popular form of negotiable instruments used by most of the public and businesses. There are most easy to use instrument, and anybody having saving bank account or current bank account in the bank can have a checkbook. The procedure followed is issuing a check in your own name in favor of some other person or organization, directing or ordering the bank to pay the specified amount. Check can be compared as bill of exchange with the difference that bank will always be drawee. The Negotiable Instruments Act 1881 defines a check as bill of exchange drawn on a specified banker and not expressed to be payable otherwise than on demand. Actually, a check is an order by the account holder of the bank directing his banker to pay on demand the specified amount or to the order of the person named therein or to the bearer. Students, here we have a specimen of a check. There is the address of the bank or the branch from whose the payment is to be deducted is mentioned. The date is a mandatory component in the check, and there is the option of writing down the name, and the rupees has to be written along with the signature or the stamp as the case may be, and the account number of the payee. Now let's understand the various characteristics of a check. Here are some prominent features we'll discuss. First, the check is a written document. Then it must be duly signed or stamped before presenting to anybody. It is an unconditional order to pay money, nothing else. Issued on a specific banker. Then the amount must be mentioned clearly both in figures as well as in words. There must be a certain person called as payee. On demand, the payment should be made. A date must be mentioned on the check to be honored by the bank. There should not be any cutting which is allowed on the check. If any cutting or mistake is there, it will be dishonored. What are the different types of checks? There are mainly 4 types of checks, as first is open check, second is crossed check, then bearer check and order check. The brief description of each type is as follows. First is open check, when the instrument provides you an option to receive cash on the bank counter is termed as open check. The bearer of the check can either receive the payment in cash from the bank counter by presenting it there or present the check to deposit in own or somebody's other's account by mentioning the account number on the back of the check leaf or directly passing it to somebody else directing the bank to pay by signing on the back of the check leaf. Second is the crossed check. There is always a risk of theft in case of open check. So, it is risky to use or issue such type of checks. To avoid this situation, there is another type of check which is called as crossed check. The payment of such type of crossed check cannot be made over the counter of the bank. Just by putting 2 transverse parallel lines on the top left corner of the check can be made crossed check, and the payment of this crossed check has to be deposited in the account mentioned by the payee or the bearer. Then third type is the bearer check. As the name suggests, it is a type of check which is presented by a person who is bearing it over the counter of the bank for payment. This type of check can be easily transferred by delivery to some other person and does not require endorsement. The fourth category is the order check, when in the check leaf the word bearer is striked off, called, cancelled, and the word order is written is called as order check. Order check can also be transferred to somebody else by signing his name on the back of it. Apart from this, we have some more categories of check, like antedated check, when some prior date is mentioned as compared to the date of the drawing of the check. Such checks are called as antedated checks. For example, check drawn on 30th of June 2017 bears the date 13th of May 2017, 1 month prior, is called as antedated check. Then comes the post-dated checks, when some future date is mentioned as compared to the date of drawing of the check. Such checks are called as post-dated checks. For example, check drawn on 30th of June 2017 bears the date of 30th July 2017, is called as post-dated checks. Dishonoring checks in generally due to 1. Insufficient fund in the account of drawer, 2. Not duly filled or overwriting or cutting is there, then it is presented after 3 months of the date mentioned on the check, and 4. Not in the good physical state or torn off. And there is another reason of not maintaining the due balance of amount in the account of the drawer. So, the students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. The negotiable instruments play an important role for the business development worldwide. As we know, businesses are the backbones of the economic development of every country, and for the financial transactions which are considered as the heart and soul of the businesses, these negotiable instruments play a very vital role. Besides certain benefits of these negotiable instruments, there are also certain drawbacks. The one who is using these instruments must use with utmost care, and any incident of forgery may be reported at the earliest. Thank you.